and she could hear it. And he said it again, and he then hung up. And then he rang back and told me that the phone was disconnected. I said, no, you hung up. And he then said, I accept that you are wishing to withdraw your complaint that the house wasn't broken into. I said, I didn't say that. Oh, thank you very much. I'll cancel your call. I said, I didn't cancel the call. And he wound me up that much that the phone was passed to my mother, and within seconds I was on the floor, and my friend called an ambulance and hung up on the mobile to call an ambulance because I went into what I was suspecting was going into start of cardiac arrest, having had several heart attacks in the last 2 years. The same symptoms was starting. I then got my spray out of my pocket. I sprayed under my tongue on 3 occasions to try and ease the tightness of my jaw and left shoulder and left arm. And then I remember passing out where another man entered in, that was a friend, and he started to pray over me. And the ambulance then came, and they administrated the first response treatment to me.
Was a 999 call made to the ambulance service, Weldon?
I didn't call the ambulance. The friend that I was speaking to on the telephone called the ambulance. And that was done by 999.
Okay.
Right. And I was taken to Beaumont Hospital, and they took me into the resuscitation room, which has contained 3 beds, and they stabilized me there, and then they put me into the acute medical assessment unit. And then they asked me then to the blood work and that to come back at 12 o'clock and have another troponin blood done, which will give a positive or a negative for a heart attack. And that's what happened. And then today, Mum hasn't tried 3 solicitors to see can she get our goods back. We're no better, and we were given 24 hours, and we were told that the goods were going to be sold.
Was any paperwork left in the home, Weldon, pardon me, sorry, I keep on.
A pink docket was left, but the Garda Síochána took that yesterday. They said that they would return it at 10 o'clock when he finished his shift, and to date he hasn't returned it. And that's the inventory of what was taken from the house.
But did the city sheriff leave a notice or a notification to say, for example, to redeem these goods we've taken, pay XYZ by a certain date, or we're going to sell them or auction them off or anything?
No, they didn't, no. They didn't. They didn't even tell me where they were going to be auctioned, where they were held, where they took them. They stole them. They didn't take them for safekeeping. They stole the property belonging to my mother. And a laptop, which is tools of the trade. They have taken away a livelihood of a 76-year-old woman and me that's in high mortgage arrears, that's trying to pay bills, and I'm talking about utilities and food bills and the VHI and medical bills to keep us alive. I'm not talking about luxury holidays or luxury yachts or a racehorse. I'm talking about the basic essentials of gas, electric and food. I can't serve a breakfast. I haven't got a table or a chair for somebody to sit at. I was have a dinner party for a friend of mine this Saturday night. I've had to cancel because I can't have them sitting down at a table I haven't a chair to. I have a table that they left by accident in the dining room, but I've no chairs. I'm not Chinese, I'm Irish, so I don't sit on futons. I need chairs. So it's been very upsetting today. And we're in a state of limbo that we don't know where the furniture is. We weren't notified where it was taken to, whether it's taken to we haven't been invited to attend an auction to buy it back. Why would we buy our stuff back? Somebody says to me, well, you could go and offer a small sum of money off the debt and they may return your goods to you. I said, why would I go and buy my own stuff back that my mother has paid for or been given as gifts to her?
Well,
why would we go?
It's your mother's.
Sorry?
It's your mother's property, right? I mean, it was your mother's.
Why would I go and pay it back? Why would I go and buy it back for her? So then I equated that to if somebody took our handbag on O'Connell Street with €1,000 in it, would I go and offer them €200 for her bag and her personal belongings back? No, I wouldn't. I'd go and I'd hopefully get a guard and I'd say, that man there has my mother's handbag, he stole it off her, but he wants me to pay him €200 for it.
They have a word for that. They call that extortion.
Yeah, and that's what was done yesterday. They've taken the goods. It's like giving a child sweets, dangling the sweets at the child. If you're good, you'll get another bar of chocolate. But what they've done with us is they've taken away a livelihood. So they've crucified us now, and they're going to come back again, and we've no money to pay them their bailiff fee to go because we've no tables and chairs to serve food on. I haven't the money to go and pay. I've threatening repossession, and I have to try and come to a formalised arrangement with my lenders. But I haven't the ability to earn any money.
You see, Weldon, I'm of the opinion that there are so many people out there, probably in maybe slightly different sets of circumstances, but similar circumstances to yourself. I believe the only way we're really going to get remedy to this is if the people really hear, just as you've laid it out to us here today, really clearly, just how the so-called system operates. Because I think so many people are completely misunderstanding just how one thing can lead to the next thing, and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. It's literally a snowball rolling down a hillside out of control.
Well, unfortunately, yes, we don't have snow in Ireland, Vincent. But what we do have is plenty of water, and we're going to be paying water tax on that from next year, right? And that's coming in to pay off the bankers that have been bailed out. Billions have been borrowed.
It's
Public servants' pay has been cut.
Yeah.
To pay this bank debt. Pensioners have been cut in their auxiliary payments. Lone parents have been cut in their auxiliary payments. The mentally retarded children of this country that have the opening lines, "We shall cherish the children of this state equally," have been cut in their disability allowance payments and auxiliary payments to fund the Troika that's bailed out the Shawnee Fitzpatricks of this land that owe billions, that gambled on shares. They can still fly off on a private jet to Monaco, to the Grand Prix, and get the photographs taken in Hello magazine. They can fly off to dinner dances. They have Olympic tickets, premium seating at concerts. I was taken to the Point Depot for a concert, and Shawnee Fitzpatrick was down at a premium seat enjoying the concert. I couldn't enjoy it because I had to climb a flight of stairs with a heart condition that his so-called bank rendered me penniless because of irregularities. And I was only trying to trade and sell a few bed nights to try and survive, to pay bills, to have a better quality of life. I didn't buy 2 hotels. I didn't buy 40 acres. I bought it for the betterment of myself and my widowed mother, who worked 3 jobs to try and survive and keep 7 children. I worked hard. I didn't drink. I didn't smoke. I went out. I didn't ask the state to provide housing. I didn't ask the state to provide healthcare, although I'm paying stealth taxes, universal social charges, property taxes, bin charges, water charges.
And in fact, Weldon, would you agree that, I mean, you are a state employee, is that correct?
I am.
So in other words, the state you're actually working for is basically attacking you, and you're actually, your function, what's your job description?
I was a public servant up until the 1st of October 2011, and the legislation changed and took the community welfare officer's role from the HSE, and in change of legislation it took us all in under the umbrella of the Department of Social Protection. I was then given the rank and title of a HEO. The role of community welfare was distinguished. We were given the role of a HEO, which is a higher executive officer in the Department of Social Protection. There is an official secrecy clause to be signed, which I haven't done. You are not allowed to be a member of a political party when you're a civil servant. You're not allowed to stand and take a dole seat. You have to resign your post. You're not allowed to canvass for anyone. You're not allowed to ring your TD for advice on a matter, because you're forbidden as a civil servant to communicate your fears. So do you call that a democratic society?
It doesn't sound like one to me.
No, but that is every civil servant.
And are all civil servants aware that that's the situation?
Not that I'm aware of. I've only been made aware of it.
How recently was that?
Today.
And
because I rang up a TD that I thought was going to help me, because she is outspoken and wasn't in my jurisdiction, but I thought I'd ring her to discover that she couldn't help me and that she couldn't really talk to me.
Because of, but is your employment status still within the HSE now?
No, it's gone.
So how can she not help you now if that's not your status anymore?
The Department of Social Protection, you can't deal with civil servants. Civil servants can't deal with politicians directly.
But you're no longer a civil servant, correct?
I am. I was a public servant up until October.
Right, but I mean, at present, you're not, so...
At present, they just won't talk, and that's it. And they don't want to know. So that's the state protecting the state. It's crucifying a state employee. You know. So.
And how badly do you feel let down by the whole process and the system, Weldon?
Well, I thought when I was growing up with my uncles and my grandmother, and the respect and the education that I had from fantastic history teachers, that this state suffered and we were persecuted. And we were told about the evictions and the hedgerow schools and the mass stones and mass being set under hedges and ditches. And that it's the Eucharistic Congress being held here in Ireland, and that there was a busload of school children on their way from Kerry to reenact a play today in the RDS about a chalice that the priest ran to protect his chalice and his life when he was being burnt out for saying Mass in a hedgerow. And that was many years ago. And in 2012, are we any better? The answer to that is no, we're worse. Because at least you knew who was coming to attack you. Because people would tell you. They had what was called backbone, to stand by and say this is not right. And when women were left with scarves and their windows were boarded up and their house went no better, when the sheriff would come and evict them, he then set fire to the house so you couldn't live in it, and they were rendered as homeless. I thought that the Constitution that was enacted on the 1st of January 1937, that gave us this Bill of Rights to protect the citizens from the Crown, that suppressed us for a long time, where she sent the prisoners to rape and maim us, known as the Black and Tans. I thought that the Constitution was going to give me a security within the Republic, a country that I haven't left, that I've kept here. I've paid my taxes, I've been employed, I've worked, I started a business within the Republic. I entertained people from far seas with Céad Míle de Fáilte to show them Irish traditions. And through no fault of my own, I got sick, I got ill. The banks withdrew my overdraft, they withdrew my power or to keep paying my bills. And that's it. And that's it. And they took it. And it's very sad.
I agree with you, Weldon. It's, look, I've heard of so many situations, not too far off your own situation, because of what I'm doing on TNS radio. I get a lot of people calling me, and, Ben Gilroy and myself and those chaps, Harry from We the People that you met, we're struggling to get the word out to people, to get the information out to people. So, really what I'm asking you here, I suppose, is do you mind if I maybe take out some personal details from this, but use this as a recording to let people know what's going on?
Yes, I don't mind at all.
Well, I can't tell you how much I appreciate that.
Because it's people need to be told that, as John F. Kennedy said in his mission statement, ask not what you can do for your country, or ask what you can do for your country, or not what your country can do for you, right? That
Absolutely.
People need to help us. And the only way that you can help one another is by telling of the persecution you've gone through. And that there is a cover-up between media, judiciary, solicitors, bankers, and it's called a corrupt society. And when you try and get and sort yourself out in society and try and live your life and try and get on with your life, you're stopped by red tape and corruption. And that's what I feel. And it's called extortion. And it's called corruption. And it's very poignant that it will be interesting to see when somebody calls and they want a bailiff fee of 500 or 600 or 700 euro off you. Is there a tax return done on that? Is there VAT charged? Is it a service?
As far as I'm aware, it just goes into the, I'm not 100% sure, but seemingly, according to the Constitution, there's supposed to be a central fund that everything is supposed to get pitched into. I don't know if that operates in relation to the sheriff.
And are we entitled then under the FOI Act to see a bank lodgement and a narrative that 500 or 600 or 700 was collected from Joe Bloggs at such and such an address and that it was lodged?
I don't believe that office has any operation in that regard.
Because it's a cartel. And cartels protect one another. There's a very famous case, and it took many years to come, where a pharmaceutical company discharged chemicals into a lake, Merle, Sharp and Dome, and the farmer lost all his cattle, and he lost his home, all through the negligence of trying to take on his livelihood, where they crucified him because they were a big multinational. And many, many years later, they found out that created the problem. But it took it took nearly a decade. But it nearly killed the man. And that's what's happening, because the sheriff has more powers, or would appear to have more powers, than a High Court judge or a Supreme Court judge. Where you're told the Court of First Instance is your district and your circuit court, the High Court is the Superior Court with the Supreme Court, and then you have European rights, where we're all Europeans and we all ran out and voted in yes to Maastricht and yes to Nice and yes to everything else. But when it comes to a Bill of Rights, your fundamental rights to protect you, they seem to be brushed aside. The Constitution counts for nothing. So are we a republic, or are we still bound to Buckingham Palace? And was she over to collect her taxes and her payout last May when she came on holiday at the taxpayer's expense? And would we be better off with red pillar boxes as opposed to green ones? Because then you'd clearly know what you're up against. You'd be paying poll taxes. The only tax now that's going to come in, or that hasn't come in, is the window tax. But that could be something that could be looked at and go back to penal time and charges for the light.
The daylight robbery.
Yeah. Well, that's what took place yesterday.
I can't disagree with you. When I was there, your mother looked like she was in shock, to be honest. And, your other family members and friends that were around, almost everybody had a look of disbelief on their face.
Yeah. It did. And the bigger shock was that I was being resussed.
And when I met you, you still
I
had...
was physically shaken last night.
Oh, absolutely.
I actually had a fear because I actually thought that she had come back. Because I didn't know that she had arrived. And I actually thought that this was more bailiffs in. That's the fear that was installed in me. But the use and enjoyment and comfort of my home was removed from me yesterday. And nobody seems to want to help. Apart from yourself that came. But what I'm saying is that's the fear. So if there's people that is out there and they're not as strong and they're worried and they're weak, but there are people that do care. And there are people like Ben, there are people like Johnny that will come when you call. Unlike the 999 call that was made to the Garda Síochána. They didn't come until 5:32 yesterday evening. The sheriff broke in to the home at 12:10.
Well, that's where I'm a firm believer, Weldon, that it's up to us, we the people, to demonstrate to each other that we actually care. I mean, I know the likes of myself, Ben and Harry and Johnny, all the guys that are out there trying to assist each other, we're operating on shoestrings, but we care and we're doing it. I'm sorry to just take you back to a point earlier. The text messages, when you got those text messages, am I correct in thinking that you were actually on a heart monitoring machine at the time?
I was waiting to go on one that I had to cancel.
So you cancelled that to come, but didn't you get a text message from them looking for keys or something?
They did. They asked me to get keys to them.
And then they just decided to break in regardless, seemingly.
Exactly, yeah.
So you actually stopped, you chose to, you felt, I suppose you had no option really but to cancel your...
Well, I had no option but to be there and to get there and to get people there as soon as possible. Because I didn't want my house ransacked and pilfered and the doors kicked in. You see, Vincent, I didn't owe a bank money and I didn't owe millions. Okay, we're talking 8,900 and odd. If we converted that into punts, we're talking 6,500 Irish pounds.
And this was in relation to an inverted commas unpaid solicitor's fee, is that correct? For an
unpaid solicitor's fee that basically got paid for doing a job that he'd done wrong, and I was suing him for negligence. So
you didn't go and borrow money and get into difficulty and not pay it back?
Go borrowing it. I didn't refuse to pay it. You see, he never rang me up actually and asked me to pay it.
Never?
Never. He never rang me.
The sheriff's office?
He never wrote to me. The first I heard about it was the sheriff, because he communicated to a solicitor that was on record for me.
And did the sheriff's office send you any paperwork requesting a payment of any way, shape or form?
They did. They called to the house and they gave me a piece of paper.
And how long ago was that, roughly?
Yeah, back in April. And
right.
I gave them in medical reports and a copy of my medical certificate.
To let them know your position?
Exactly.
Right.
And I didn't hear from them, and I sent them an email, and I sent them a fax, and I sent them by post, and I got them personally delivered. And as of today, he has never responded to the correspondence. So I was on the assumption that he had compassion and that he had extinguished the bet and had wrote back to these people and said that this chap is unwell and doesn't have it. And there you go. But he didn't. He came and broke in and stole and invaded the privacy of the home.
You're at home now at the moment?
I am, yeah. I'm at home at the moment, but we are living in fear. We're living in fear of the doorbell knocking, which you witnessed when I was talking to you earlier on. Yeah. We're afraid to open the door. We're afraid to answer the phone. we've had a night of unrest. If you were to equate it to an accident or you would possibly say that we're in post-traumatic dramatic stress from an incident that happened.
Do you feel you're being persecuted at this stage, Weldon?
Oh God, yeah. Yes. Persecuted and bullied.
I mean, it would be really easy for you to be angry right now, but I'm not hearing anger in your voice. And I think that's, I think that stands to probably to you and to the rearing your mother gave you.
Yeah, because we were reared that what didn't belong to us, we didn't take. What you can't have, you don't steal. That was enshrined into us as children. So we work hard for a living to get the things that you want. To have the things that you want. To have security. You no longer have security in Ireland at this day in 2012. Security is a thing of the past. The only secure thing that you have at the moment is of dying. You know it's going to happen, but you don't know when. Everything else, you don't know.
I'd also say to you too, Weldon, you don't sound like you're giving up.
No. I want the stuff that was stolen back. I want the people that broke in prosecuted. I want people to realise that this should stop. I want the people that's enacting legislation to do something to stop it.
Would you go as far as to use the terminology, or the word rather?
I would prefer to see the sheriff's office extinguished like a bad disease in animals. When we had foot and mouth here a couple of years ago, they were killing cows and pigs, and they took sausages and rashers off the shelves in Tesco's and destroyed them. That's what I'd like to see done with the sheriffs of Ireland. Extinguished and sent back to the motherland where they belong.
And in relation to how you were treated by the other offices, would you go as far as to use a stronger word as treason, or do you feel it was a betrayal?
Yeah, they're only short of taking your head and chopping it off with a guillotine and posting it to the solicitor that sells the money. Or take the hair of my head and sell it to somebody that hasn't.
I mean, I pretty much have always been of the opinion ever since I heard about what happened in Ireland and, historically, that the very idea of eviction is barbaric to my mind. And it's completely illogical, because in theory, if people are evicted, they then become a greater burden, inverted commas, on the state. And all the people who are supposedly paying their taxes, well, guess what's going to happen to their taxes? They're going to increase, and therefore more people are going to become evicted. It's a vicious race to the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And as a cycle of debt spiraling downwards, I mean, if we were to preempt this as a people, all we could literally do is everybody move outside and try to survive outside all of a sudden. It's moronic on such an incredible level. Can I ask you, Weldon, about your father? I mean, how long ago did your father die? How long has your mother been a widower?
Oh, over 30 years.
Because she looked like she's a very strong woman. I mean, in the video there, people will see, she was in shock, but still she was saying, I now have to go and prove I own my stuff, basically. Mm-hmm. How was anybody to do that? I mean, if somebody picked up a couch from my home and took it outside and I complain, I would expect the Garda Síochána or whomever to say, well, okay, he says it's his couch. how can you prove it's your couch? How can you prove it's your television or, whatever that's been removed from your home? Well, most of the time they take your word for it. They make the accusation against the so-called thief. And if he can't justify the goods in his possession, as in to show his just cause and his receipts, etc., for purchase, they get returned to whomever can prove or demonstrate there was a break-in.
I would presume that with closed-circuit television recording,
yeah,
of the stuff being removed from the house, that would be proof enough.
I would have thought so. I would accept that.
And I would have thought that, if somebody comes in and the door isn't open, like there wasn't a for sale sign, we weren't having a garbage sale or a garage sale, as they say in the United States.
Yeah.
We weren't having a car boot sale.
No,
we were out about our business. Again, free movement and association enshrined under the Constitution. Right?
Yeah.
That's questionable after yesterday. Because if you go out for a walk, and you come back with your pile of tablets, and your dog, and your house has been ransacked.
And that word ransacked, that, to my mind, that's a very apt description for what happened.
Well, you've seen it yesterday.
Because they selectively chose.
It was, I would consider going into a fruit stall and going through every bunch of bananas and picking the best and leaving the bad and taking what you like, your personal choice that you can't afford.
They basically,
to have.
It was like cherry picking.
Free fall, cherry picking.
Yeah.
Dealing. And pilfering.
Would you accept that it's almost, or perhaps even it is, state-sponsored theft?
Yeah.
I mean, do you feel terrorized? I hate to use the terror phrase because it's over and abused. But would you say you felt terrorized by what transpired?
Yeah, Tiger Raid.
Yeah.
Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. Except at least if you were being held up by a gun, you'd know it would be over. Because somebody would pull in a trigger and send a bullet into you if they were going to rob you.
Do you feel perhaps, Weldon, that the house may have been under observation and they may have actually waited until your mother went out for a walk before entering?
That has crossed my mind. That there's obviously an element of stalking.
I mean, was your mother gone from the house a long time on the walk, or was it like a 5-minute walk, a 10-minute walk? Do you know?
About half an hour.
Right. And do you know the time you received the first text message when you were in hospital? Would that have before they actually?
11:54.
Okay, so it's possible that they were actually in the location.
Possibly they were already in. They were actually. It's not possible they were actually. When you look at the closed circuit television, they were in trespassing on the driveway. I didn't invite them in. Didn't ask them to go in and park on the driveway. They chose to do that themselves. Yeah,
your driveway is for parking for patrons.
When I bought the house, I was pointed out by the then solicitor that's on the conveyancing on the house. He asked me to point out my property. And I remember these words very well. And he circled my property with a red pen and drew an outline on the garden. And he told me, it's freehold. It's not leasehold. You bought it freehold. You own it. You own the land and the house. So I wasn't a leasee. I was a landowner. I owned a front garden and a back garden with a plot known as a folio and a house planted on that plot.
Mm-hmm.
My understanding in law that my driveway is my driveway. And I didn't give them permission to come in. I didn't send out an invitation for them to come and dine with me. But they reversed in and broke in. That's where we're at.
Well, Weldon, I'm going to...
But we haven't received anything back, and we haven't had any calls. So we have to go off and prove.
Have you... well, that's...
collected over...
That's what I was going to ask. Have you actually been...
Have you go and prove that we own them? We to get photographs, but the photographs are on the laptop that they've taken. So it's like going to do a murder investigation with a murder weapon in possession of the people that you're trying to show that you own ownership to.
It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous.
But that's society.
You have my number there now, Weldon. So if you need to call me, if anybody else shows up, or if you need to call me or Ben or any of the guys, please do so. Don't hesitate. You know, literally, if it's the middle of the night, don't hesitate.
No problem. And thanks very much for your support anyway yesterday.
Oh, you're more than welcome. You're more than welcome.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Weldon.
No problem. Bye-bye.
Bye now. That was Weldon, folks, from, well, the video will be out, and you'll see the video if it's not out already. He gave me permission to broadcast this on TNS radio. And I hope whoever listens to this rewinds, downloads, and records it, and uploads it everywhere, to as many places they can. Do not just listen to this and leave it at that. How can you? How could you listen to the content of what's just happened and not download it and share it and spread it and ask questions? You've been listening to an interview with Weldon. This is tnsradio.com. Kind regards.